What unfolded in northern Israel over the last 48 hours was not unexpected. Not for me, and not for anyone who has been honestly tracking the trajectory of this conflict. What this represents, and what I'm going to break down for you step by step, is the confirmation of a strategic reality. A reality that a very small group of serious analysts, myself included, have been trying to push into the awareness of Washington's defense and foreign policy establishment for nearly 15 years. A reality those institutions repeatedly chose not to confront, but to work around. And now, that decision has produced consequences. Tonight, over the wreckage of IDF Northern Command and 5 destroyed brigade formations, that cost has finally come due. 300 Khaibar Shikan ballistic missiles were launched. Let that number sit with you for a moment, because the number itself is only the beginning of the story. IDF Northern Command is not just a headquarters. It is the operational brain of Israel's entire northern military structure. Every brigade, every air defense system, every logistics chain, every command and control function across one of the most strategically critical regions, all coordinated through that single structure. And that structure was hit with a level of precision, intensity, and sustained impact that has no precedent in Israeli military history. 5 brigades were not merely disrupted, not degraded, not repositioned. They were rendered non-functional. Their command systems gone, their logistics cut off, their communications silenced, all within a single engagement window. And I want to be very precise about the word destroyed. It does not mean every soldier was killed. It does not mean every vehicle was burned. It means something more important. The organizational structure, the command nodes, the communication systems, the logistical backbone, all of it was dismantled. Because a brigade that cannot receive orders, cannot resupply, cannot communicate, is not a brigade in any meaningful operational sense. It is simply a group of individuals in isolation, and in military terms, that distinction decides everything. Israel is now seeking a ceasefire, not from a position of balance, not as a temporary pause, but from the position of a military system whose northern defensive foundation has just collapsed. Its air defense systems failed to stop an adversary it underestimated for over a decade, while the American defense establishment continued to insist that the threat was manageable. It wasn't. And now we're going to understand why. But before we go deeper, there are 4 questions that need real answers. The kind of answers being discussed right now inside closed rooms in Tel Aviv and Washington, but will never be said publicly. First, how did 300 ballistic missiles reach their targets simultaneously? And what does that tell us about the true capability of Israel's missile defense systems after decades of investment? Second, what does the destruction of 5 brigades in a single strike reveal about structural weaknesses in how Israel positions and protects its forces? Third, why is Israel now seeking a ceasefire? What has its leadership concluded about the trajectory of this conflict? And fourth, what can Washington actually do? What is it willing to do? And how large is the gap between those 2 realities? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you will understand something that most mainstream analysis avoids completely. The operational story matters, the missiles, the targets, the interceptions, but the real story is strategic. And that story didn't begin last night. It began 15 years ago through long-term decisions made on both sides. So let's walk through what actually happened. Not the version you'll hear in official briefings, but the version supported by evidence on the ground. IDF Northern Command is the central hub for all northern military operations. Every coordination between ground forces and air units, every logistics flow, every communication link passes through it. And for years, its structure, vulnerabilities, and layout have been studied in detail by Iranian and Hezbollah intelligence. This was not random targeting. This was precision built on patience. The result of years of systematic intelligence work. The 300 missiles were not aimed at a single building. They were distributed across a carefully designed network, command centers, backup systems, brigade headquarters, communication relays, logistics hubs, air defense coordination points, all struck in a way that ensured total system collapse. This level of planning reflects a sophistication that Western institutions consistently underestimated. But even that is not the most important part. What matters more is the long-term strategic investment behind it, something Washington is still avoiding saying openly. Now let's talk about missile defense. Israel's system, Iron Dome, David's Sling, Arrow, is one of the most advanced in the world. And yes, it works, but that's not the real question. The real question is, can it handle this scale? Because missile defense has limits. Each interception uses finite resources. Each system requires time to respond. Each battery has capacity constraints. And when 300 missiles arrive within a compressed time window, the system gets saturated. Some missiles will get through, and enough did to dismantle critical infrastructure. Which leads to a simple reality. No defensive system can guarantee protection if the attacker can scale beyond its limits. Israel built a powerful defense. Iran built an offense designed to exceed it, and that outcome was decided years ago, not in a single night. To understand how, we have to look at Iran's development strategy. The Khyber-Shikan missile is the result of decades of focused iteration. Its range, its maneuverability, its GPS-independent guidance, its warhead design, all built with one objective: defeat missile defense systems. Even under sanctions, Iran adapted. It leveraged alternative knowledge sources and built around its limitations. One critical moment came in 2011 with the capture of a US drone. That event provided insights into advanced navigation systems, and those insights helped shape a new generation of weapons. But the deeper failure here is institutional. For years, analysts warned that adversaries were adapting faster than Western systems could respond. Those warnings were not taken seriously, and now the result is visible. Israel invested based on old threat models. Iran built specifically to defeat them. That mismatch explains everything. Washington's response, more weapons, more support, may help tactically, but it does not change the strategic reality, because the options that would change it carry risks that current leadership is not willing to accept. And Iran has designed its deterrence to ensure exactly that. Meanwhile, the world is watching. Russia is studying the military lessons. China is positioning diplomatically, and the broader takeaway is clear. Technological dominance is no longer guaranteed. Nations are learning to exploit weaknesses instead of matching strength, and that will shape global strategy for years to come. What is needed now is not a quick fix, but a fundamental reassessment, a willingness to confront uncomfortable realities. Whether that happens remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. The strategic landscape has changed, not overnight, but through years of decisions that led to this moment. And the gap between reality and institutional narratives has now been exposed, and that gap is where strategic failures are born.